Thank you all for coming as well. Like, I remember when I was a student here, I didn't come to enough of these talks, so I really appreciate the time that you've taken to come and have a listen. Yeah, so like Ben said, kind of Jamie and I were studying our PhDs. We got really excited about computer vision and the possibilities there. We had a little bit of experience in startups, and we were always really interested in starting our own businesses. But to be frank, like, we had no idea about how to commercialize something, how to sell a product, or even build it for that matter. It was all kind of just a research thing. And I actually did my undergrad here as well. So I spent 8 years here as a student. So I know how it feels to be in your shoes, like kind of watching this and be like, that's just ridiculous. I'm never going to start my own business. Like, that's not even feasible or tangibly possible, but I promise you it is. And I'm kind of hoping that by the end of this talk, you kind of can feel the same and kind of understand like the journey that we've been on. And if you don't understand something, you can just go and learn it, and that shouldn't be a blocker to anything that you do. And actually, I was talking to Joyce Lewis. So if any of you are in ECS, I'm sure you're 100% aware of Joyce and like the weekly emails that you're getting through. And when I was finishing up undergrad, I had like no idea what I wanted to do with my life. Like, my friends are getting jobs, and I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, that's not me. And I went to see Joyce, and I was like, Joyce, what should I do with my life? And she's like, yeah, you got any good like lecturers? And I'm like, not really. She's like, what about that Mark guy, like Mark Nixon? Like, oh yeah, he would be a sick supervisor. And it turned out that he was, and it was computer vision, and that was actually really like the start of it all, was kind of going into that PhD with Mark, and he was just such a fantastic supervisor, and kind of gave me and all of his students and the opportunity to just kind of discover something new. And actually, like, a PhD was in kind of identifying like age and gender from security footage, a little bit like what we do at Ori Vision. But when we started that, it just seemed completely infeasible. It's like, you clearly cannot do this. Like, this isn't going to work. Like, you can't see people's faces or anything about them, and they're like really horrible blurry images. But by the end of it, we'd made some massive advancements, and that was really kind of the motivation to start thinking about commercializing this, because of the advent of a thing called deep learning, which kind of really revolutionized computer vision between like 2010, 2014. So that kind of gave us a really strong kind of jumping point to think, okay, we got something cool here. This isn't widely used. People are not putting this out, and we think we've got some kind of edge that we can build on. But again, we had really no idea like how we should be applying this or how we should sell it. So yeah, I just thought it'd be good to kind of just really briefly touch on like what the hell it is we actually do at Ori Vision, because I'm sure you've seen like the words everywhere, but it doesn't like retail insights. What is that? And kind of just explain a little bit about what that actually is. And then talk a little bit about the journey that we've been on, some of the milestones and the successes, and I guess the kind of the losses, the failures, but also like how we kind of bounce back from those and what the opportunities were there. So what we actually do at Ori Vision is pretty simple. We help retailers make more money. Like, that's it. That's the end goal. That's how we sell it to our clients. Like, look, you're going to buy a product, and you're going to make 10 times what you're spending on us in revenue, in additional revenue. But the important thing is that we're focusing on specific types of retailers that have a specific problem. And this is what we didn't have at the start. We had this cool technology, but we had really not a clear understanding of what the problem was that we were solving. So kind of doing the whole business in reverse. But at the same time, that kind of naivety kind of got us through the first stages, and having a cool technology, the kind of visual, I guess maybe you've seen like the labels on people that are like multicolored. That was a really kind of good thing to kind of put in front of people and be, look how cool this is. Like, I'm sure there's some kind of use here for you guys. And it turns out that it's a pretty standard industry. Like, loads of companies are already doing this, so it's not a massive leap of imagination to see how our technology kind of fits into doing that. So simply put, like, we help retailers make more money by helping them understand a little bit more about who their customers are, what they're doing in physical locations, in the physical stores, and also looking at things like operational efficiencies, like what their staff are doing throughout the day, really to give the retailers insights into what's actually happening in their physical stores, because believe it or not, they have absolutely zero idea what happens on a day-to-day basis. And from that, they can drive decisions. So they can suddenly see that in one of our use cases, staff were kind of spending too long at the front of the store, so customers weren't coming in. So we simply told them, like, look, just move your staff to the back of the store. Customers will be more incentivized to kind of walk into the store. They're not so pressured once they walk in to interact with staff. And that actually increased their conversion rate, the amount of money that they were making from customers. So we could actually measure that, and that's what our technology does in a kind of in a long way. We can first measure and then drive actions off those insights. And really, the computer vision that we have kind of allows us to do different kinds of insights that our competitors can't do. So like the really big thing is that we hook into existing security cameras. So if you're a retailer, you've got thousands of locations, you've already got security systems in all of them, but that people are not using these security cameras at the moment to know who their customers are. And our technology essentially just plugs and plays, 15-minute install. Your entire store is online, just like you have a retail e-commerce website. We can do the same thing for a physical location. Just plug it in, switch it on, and that's game-changing. Like the fact that you can get a store up and running in 15 minutes. Our competitors take days, weeks, months to set up a store, and it can cost like 50 grand. We can just plug in and go for a few hundred or a few £1,000s for an entire year, and that's just a completely revolutionary proposition to retailers. You know, if you're Gap and you have 3,000 stores, and you were looking at getting insights for maybe 2 or 3, but now we're looking at 3,000, that's pretty game-changing. And we're hoping that this kind of technology will actually revolutionize physical retail and obviously give it a little boost as well, because it's struggling with e-commerce and kind of the demise of the high street and trying to give like independent retailers the information they need to survive. So it's faster, it's more cost effective, but it's also a massive focus on privacy. And actually the law experts at Southampton kind of gave us this insight very early on that we need to focus on this because, you know, identifying customers and tracking their information that is kind of not cool now. It used to be 10 years ago, people were all over that. That's all everyone wanted to do. Like they wanted to do Facebook, but everywhere. And now people are suddenly realizing, no, that's not okay. Tracking people's phones, that's not okay. You can't just snoop their Wi-Fi and store that information on them so that when they return, you're targeting them with advertising. That's not cool anymore. And actually what the EU did around that was very important for a thing called GDPR, which is like a privacy regulation to protect consumer identities and protect them from being, you know, poached by large companies. So that was something from day one that the university put us onto, and it's been massively beneficial to our business because we don't identify anyone. We aggregate all the data, it's all anonymous, and that's been a great selling point for our business. So the university really helped in that regard as well. So yeah, I just thought talk a little bit about the journey and how it came about. So we were just studying our PhDs. We had no idea. We'd never heard of Future Worlds or Dragon's Den, and it was pretty much this exact point 3 years ago that we heard about Dragon's Den. We were like, oh, maybe we've got some cool technology, and we spoke to Ruben. He was like, this looks cool, but put it in application. So we just kind of wanged out an application without really thinking about it. We're like, we've got some cool tech. It's going to change the world. And it got rejected. And we were just like, what is going on? Okay, maybe we didn't put enough effort into this application. And then we had a chat, I think, with Ruben and Ben. And like, okay, these guys, they're not just chatting shit. They might actually have something. So we put like this little demo together for Dragon's Den. And that was really the big kind of first milestone of actually saying, okay, we want to build something. It's going from an idea to we can actually think about this as a business. We incorporated it. I think we incorporated in like May 2017, like far too early, but I don't know what we were doing on Company's House at that time. That's not something you need to do at the beginning of the business. You just need to work on, you know, building the product and understanding who you're selling it to. But doing Dragon's Den was massively game-changing because we would not have started the business without having that kind of catalyst and going in. So we prepped up, we put the pitch together, we rehearsed it about 1 million times, and then we got onto the stage with all the dragons. We're like, this is it. Like, we're in the money. We're going to crush it. It's going to be amazing. Delivered the pitch. The pitch went okay. It was all right. And then the questions started with the dragons, and it all went south pretty quickly. So we thought we were in there, and then suddenly we were getting questions about like, how does this work, or why is this good, or how are retailers going to want this? And I think we ended up like arguing with the dragons on stage in front of I think an audience of like 200 people, which was not a good look. It's a little bit of a disaster. We felt like at the time it was a bit of a disaster, and we'd really messed this up. And I think we went in, we were a bit cocky. You know, it was our first pitch. We were trying to be a bit more than we actually were, and we weren't kind of maybe as acceptant of like what we didn't know at the time. So when we got the questions, like, no, it's just going to be better than everything else, and it's just going to be brilliant. But the dragons saw through that. They saw right through that. But that really helped us. Like, kind of that initial reality check was amazing, because it really set us in a path of like, okay, we can't just chat shit about this. Like, we need to have something to back up not only the technology but kind of the commercial side of things. So we were still finishing our PhDs at the time, and we were kind of working on that. So we did focus on getting our thesis in and actually completing the PhDs and not getting too derailed. I mean, not that we had too much motivation to get derailed by it at that point, but we kind of focused on getting that in, just finishing off the PhD, so we could really focus on Aura Vision properly without any other distractions. And thankfully, Future Worlds, again, and I'm like lauding a lot about Future Worlds, but it was really supportive through that kind of process of like, okay, we know you need some time to finish, get it done, and then here's some office space, now just start working on the idea. So one of the next big kind of milestones for us was meeting this guy called, I shouldn't say his name, but he was kind of a founder of Nectarcard. So you've probably come across Nectarcard at Sainsbury's. When you go and pay, you scan your Nectarcard and you get those loyalty points, those rewards. Essentially, it's a massive tracking exercise, right? So you're going there, you're giving Sainsbury's your information for free. They're giving you back a little bit in return, but of course it's not going to be as much as you're giving them. And they're trying to kind of nudge you to buy products that they want you to buy through that. It's quite a clever psychological program. So the idea of that was actually set up by 2 PhD students, a little bit like us, who built a company called dunnhumby, and they sold it to Tesco's, and it's now massive. Like, loyalty cards is just a huge industry that all grocery chains use, because it just creates them so much value to understand, you know, why are people buying things and what are they doing. So when we met the co-founder of this company, we were like, he's gonna go wild for this. He's gonna love it. Like, what is this? He's never seen this before. So we pitched, we prepared. We had this like live demo that we were going to show him, and we got him in the room, and we whipped out the demo, and it didn't work. Like, it all fell through. We were just like, oh God, not again. So that was a disaster, and he gave us a massive reality check on like, okay, your technology is cool, I think, but you guys have no idea how to sell this. Like, why is this valuable to me? And we thought he'd get it instantly because he was in the data business, and he literally done this like 10 years, 15 years before us. So we kind of realized then, okay, we need to start thinking about how we're actually talking about this, and how are we going to present this to retailers. It's not just kind of cool tech anymore. But then the kind of next really massive milestone was going to the CES trade show in Las Vegas. So Future Worlds actually got us a stand there to exhibit. And we I don't think we knew what to expect. We were just going kind of on a whim. Las Vegas, that sounds cool. Like, let's go to Vegas. Like, why not? Got nothing better to do. And so we went, and amazingly, like, fortunately, we had a TV with the video on it, and really that was absolutely game-changing. When we went from these 2 conversations with the dragons and with the co-founder of Nectarcard that were essentially quite negative, and we went to Vegas and we went to US, everyone was loving this. We spoke to hundreds of people who were all in loads of different industries, retail, advertising, like trade shows themselves, and they all just saw this and were like, how are you guys like not rolling in cash already? And we're like, well, I don't know, like, you tell us, like, we don't know what we're doing. But that was really brilliant, because that was kind of the start of our market research. So we was understanding, like, speaking to lots and lots of different people in lots of different industries, to really understand, like, where is the value of what we've done, and how is this going to benefit them. And it was just a really exciting experience, and that really, from that, it kind of really spurred us on for essentially 12 months of the kind of momentum we got from that show. We raised some investment from a UK accelerator very shortly afterwards, because we were able to say to them, "Oh, look, we've spoken to all these people, they love it," and we had nothing, we had no clients, we didn't even have a product, we didn't have a dashboard, we had no data, there was absolutely nothing. We just had some machine learning tech and an idea and some conversations we'd had, but we were able to raise £100,000 from a London accelerator, which was, at the time, that was incredible. We didn't even think people would ever give us that kind of capital. And that really took us through those 12 months. So our third co-founder joined as my childhood friend. So there were three of us just working on this full time. We moved the business to London because we realized that's where all of our clients are. They expect us to be there. We need to go and have meetings and do this. And really, we spent those 12 months working on early pilots. One of the other major things was Future Worlds managed to get us BBC Click. So we were actually featured in a BBC Click episode on the first 4 minutes of an episode, which is insane because they wouldn't come and see us at the CES trade show. But then they suddenly called us. I think it was the Friday, and they were like, "We're coming in on the Monday, we're going to film." We're like, "Okay." So they came in, and we were climbing up the ladder in Susu and strapping those. If you look in the BBC Click episode, they do a little shot of our camera, and it's literally just gaffer taped to one of these girders in Susu, which we just hooked up for 5 minutes just before they came. And again, the fact that we managed to get them some video of our technology actually working was we shouldn't have got that. That was so lucky because we weren't set up for anything to do with that, or they were just coming in and filming, and it gets his age just about right, but we hadn't fine-tuned it, or we had not set up any of the product to do that, so just a complete whim. And actually, we didn't get that much out of the BBC Click video because we didn't have an ask, and it wasn't a kind of commercial pitch. So, but again, it kind of helped us in future conversations to be we're on BBC Click, so that kind of meant something to people, which was fantastic. So kind of towards the end of 2018, we were being quite limited on our spend. We were really minimizing our spend and just keeping ourselves ramen alive. We're just kind of eating ramen. It's kind of a Silicon Valley thing that they do. But we were steadily running out of money towards the end of 2018. We'd had one sale, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to sustain the business at all. And we were rapidly running out. So just on a whim, we decided to put an application into Y Combinator, which is essentially the best kind of startup accelerator in the world. And we got through to the interview stage, which was fantastic. And essentially, we just did a lot of research about YC and what they're looking for. And kind of having been through the program, we know now it's a bit of a potluck thing. It's a lucky thing. But if you can land it, it's amazing. I think one of the things that really helped us was that we had some traction. We could talk a bit about knowing how we're going to serve some kind of retailers and the problem. But we spent literally 3 days just locked in a room in the Bay Area, in Silicon Valley, in California, just grilling ourselves, just the three of us, about all the problems about our business, why we'd fail, and why people wouldn't buy us, and all of these things. And it was a real soul-searching exercise that we went through. So when we got into the interview, the YC interview, it's a 10-minute grilling of the partners at YC, and they don't know very much about you. They have this little pitch, so there's kind of a set of questions you can predict, but if they get their teeth into one of them, they think you're weaker, they'll just drill you on that until you break in front of them. So we kind of done this process ourselves for 3 days, and when we went into that interview, we absolutely crushed that interview. It was the best interview ever, and we thought, we've got this, and then the other guys, they're called Y-Split now, but they came through Future Worlds. They also applied in the same batch as us to YC, and we were waiting for the phone calls. The phone call comes through at 6 p.m. that day. You've got to hang around and wait for this call to be whether you're accepted or not. And the Y-Split guys got the call on 6 to tell them that they'd been accepted. And we were just like, oh no, okay, this is great, but like, where's our phone call? And I think it was 8 p.m. and then we eventually got the call, and like we couldn't believe it. And it was, again, that was a really pivotal moment getting into Y Combinator. Really, if I'm frank about Y Combinator, the value of it was raising investment afterwards. The brand image you get from YC, it helps enormously with investors, because before then we were trying to raise from UK VCs and angels, and no one really was that interested in us. We didn't have the traction, we didn't have the growth of the company, but then as soon as you stick that YC logo on it, the tune changes very, very drastically, and YC have a fantastic network of investors that we were able to tap. And then we went through and raised a relatively good investment round from the back of YC, and that helped us grow the team. So for 2.5 years, it was just 3 of us kind of working on this idea coming out of Southampton, and now we're a team of 10. We've raised like over $1.5 million off the back of YC, which sounds like a lot of money, but it's actually not as much money as you think when you have to spend it on staff and stuff. So that's been incredible. And really this year for us is about just growing the company and growing the revenue so that we can show, yeah, this is an actual real product that people are willing to buy. We have some deployments now in like Japan, in the US, in Europe, in the UK. But we're still finding problems. Like there's still things that we don't know, that there are like the unknown unknowns of things that might kill us, and we have no idea about them yet. And then there are kind of the known unknowns. Like we know that we can't serve these types of retailers. So it's just a continuous process of kind of gauging like what it is that you do and don't know, and just going through that. So yeah, I would just suggest if you have an idea, and you are kind of thinking about it, and maybe now's not the right time, but you should just act on it, because you can just like you can build something brilliant off the back of it if you've got a strong idea, and just sticking with it and not letting it go when people are telling you that it's a terrible idea and that you absolutely should definitely not be doing this with your life. Sometimes it's nice to kind of start proving them wrong and doing something a little bit different. And the other kind of bit of advice I'd have is when you start kind of selling your product, working out who you're not selling it to is as important as working out who you are selling it to. So you don't want to get too diluted with trying to sell it to just everyone. You really want to narrow down on a niche of people that like really need it. So at the beginning we were looking at all these different like retail, trade shows, advertising, shopping malls. And one of the best decisions that we made right at the beginning was to just serve people that already have CCTV cameras. Now, it wasn't something that was obvious to us at the beginning. So all the pitch and stuff that we have now was kind of a culmination of 3 years worth of work and kind of these unknown questions we could slowly begin to like pick away at and answer. So being able to say, okay, let's ignore all the retailers that don't have cameras and just go after the ones that do have cameras was like a really pivotal decision. And it's a hard decision to make when you start a business, because of course you want everyone to buy your products, you want everyone to need it because it will be more valuable. But being able to kind of start somewhere where you've got a little niche is pretty tough but important decision to make. So yeah, 100%. If you have an idea, apply to Dragon's Den and just do it, because that was the best decision that we made on this journey. And if any of you are looking at computer vision or computer science and are interested in kind of finding out a little bit more about what we do, and perhaps looking at a summer internship and want to get involved in startups, then please do get in contact. We'd love to hear from you and kind of follow up the conversation. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it and look forward to all the questions. Yeah, no, it's really good. It's a really good question. We've had to become like experts in GDPR law to be able to kind of to explain, why what we're doing is actually okay, and being able to contrast it to things like mobile tracking. So like I'm a great. We're all kind of great believers in protecting privacy, and not more for the fact that in a completely like selfish way, that has been great for us to sell against, to say like, look, we protect privacy, but our competitors don't. And actually, our competitors are struggling now. So a lot of the incumbents used mobile Wi-Fi tracking. So it's tracking your mobile phone when you walk around. They can ID your phone. You don't need to sign in to Wi-Fi. They know who you are. So when you come back to the store, they'll know that you've visited the store in a month's time and that you're that same person. And that's an invasion of privacy because you haven't given them consent to do that. And all that kind of industry is actually getting shut down pretty rapidly because of GDPR. Actually, a lot of the clients we work with are telcos, like, I won't name names, but you're thinking of like the largest kind of telecommunications retailers and brands in the UK. A lot of those guys sold Wi-Fi analytics to retailers, and now they're looking at what is the future, and the future is computer vision, because you can get kind of the depth of insight, but you can also protect people's privacy without needing to track the individual. So essentially what we do is really simple. We can track people around in a video, like very, very precisely, very accurately. We get their demographics, like their age and their gender, but we just roll up those insights into 15-minute blocks. So in 15 minutes, you can see 100 people came into your store, and like 50 of them were male, and 50% of them turned left and engaged with the product. But you'd never be able to link that individual back to, say, their purchase or exactly what they did at 3:35 that day. And that really just solidifies the kind of anonymity of the data. And that's what allows us to run it in a retail store without having to get people to explicitly give consent for data collection, because we don't know who the individual is at the end of the day. Yeah, so essentially, there's two sets of value that we provide back. The first is just measuring everything that happens in store. So essentially the analytics industry is built up on just counting people coming in and out of the store, is kind of the bread and butter of the industry. So it's literally like every day a retailer would just have a number of 100 people came into your store and you sold 10 things. So your conversion rate is 10%. And that 10% number is what they're trying to improve. So trying to improve the likelihood that someone will buy something in their store. So that conversion rate number is like pivotal to all kind of retail analytics. And that's why all of our competitors, they just count people on the doorway, because to get that number, that's all you need to do. You just need to count people coming into the store. But what they're missing out on is obviously like what they actually do in store. Okay, they came in, but why didn't they buy anything? And that's kind of contrary to all the loyalty scheme stuff, because they can see what happens when people do buy things, but they can't see what happens when people don't buy things. And that's kind of where our solution comes into play, because we can tell you these are all the things that happened, and these are the things that actually correlated to a sale. So trying to think of another example, so engagement with products, for example, is very important. Like how long people are actually spending interacting with a product and experiencing it, and kind of the longer that they're engaging with it, the more likely they are to buy it. The longer they spend in store, the more likely they are to purchase or make a purchase. So being able to measure that number is really important. So we can actually measure that down to an individual product area and say, look, this product area, a really good example was like Samsung versus Apple. So we were in a bunch of telco stores, and we could show them, these are the kinds of customer that are coming in and looking at your Samsung products. These are the kinds of customer that are coming in and looking at your Apple products. By the way, women are coming into the store, they're really engaged with the Apple products, but when more women come in and they spend longer, they're actually not, they're buying less. So you need to adjust something in your store to target women better, because you're not engaging them properly. Whereas men, they'll walk in, they'll walk straight to Samsung, spend very little time there, and then they'll actually make a purchase. They're much more the classic thing. There's another one. We're in another really interesting one in the US. We're in a luxury sportswear retailer targeted to female shoppers. The kind of like the jeggings stuff and all that. And they have a little area in their store where they have seats. And that's a pretty big decision for them to make, because that area could have products in it, and that more products equals more money. But they've decided to put a seating area in there, and they kind of want to know, like, is this seating area actually getting us more money? Is it making people more likely to buy our products? So we could record there, and it was really fascinating, because what we found was that when men spend longer in the seating area, their conversion rate goes up. So all these ladies are coming in, just stereotyping here, but coming in with their partners, getting them to sit down in the seating area, and the longer that they can sit there and not have to kind of complicate the sale, the more likely it is their female counterparts are going to actually make a purchase. What was really fascinating is that this company, they'd put female-focused brochures on there because they're thinking it's their female shoppers that are coming in, sitting there, and maybe trying and looking at the products, and they're like, no, we need to put men's magazines in the seating area to keep the men in the seating area, and the women will buy more. It sounds quite stereotyped, but it's interesting when you're breaking the stereotype as well, and actually the real value comes out when you're telling retailers something that is breaking one of the assumptions they have, and that's something that's really interesting for them. Yeah, that's really cool. I've got a few thoughts about that actually. So as I was saying with Mark was he's an amazing supervisor because he kind of just let you explore a space. And that's something that when you're building a startup, like you can't really do from a technological point of view. Like you need to do it from the commercial standpoint. You need to explore like different opportunities, different types of clients and different like ways of selling your product. But you don't really have that luxury with the technology. Like the technology, you've just got to build it and it's got to work. You haven't got time to like do a bit of R&D and just play around with it. So I think being able to have that time during the PhD to just explore an area, become a specialist in something that very few other people understand, really set us in good stead because we'd had our kind of exploration time with the tech, and now it's time to do exploration on the commercial side. I think we could have been a bit cooler at the Dragon's Den pitch. We could have just said, yeah, you're right, like we'll have a think about it and back down a little bit. But I think, yeah, in terms of like a lot of the mistakes that we've made, it's very easy to say, oh yeah, we would have done that better with hindsight. But I think, sometimes you just got to put yourself out there and you've got to just be accepting that you're going to make those mistakes. And that's just all part of the process, yeah.
Daniel, thank you so much indeed.